All right, awesome. Okay. All right, welcome everyone to week 2 of the Mindset Shift course, Flip Your Motivation Switch. Today's lesson is all about goal setting. Um, as you remember from last week, every week we're going to go through the same loop. Whenever we think about learning something, about something that is going to propel us forward towards change, we go through these same 3 steps: awareness, education, and then finish with action steps. So we're going to start with awareness. Why are goals so important? People always talk about goal setting, setting goals, big goals, little goals, stretch goals, attainable goals, unattainable goals. What is the thing about goal setting, and why are we spending a whole week talking about them? Very simple analogy I like to use. If you look at this treasure map on the screen here, put quite simply, you don't find a destination that you don't seek out for, right? You don't end up at that X on the map by accident. No one finds success by just going. If you don't have a destination in mind, you are not going to get there, right? When you sit down in your car to take a trip somewhere, you open up your GPS, what's the first thing you put in? The destination. You do not have a way to go if you don't have a place in mind to land, right? So when we don't have goals, when we just kind of like want something to happen, it's like, all right, like I just, I want success. I want to lose weight. I want to, whatever the thing is, but it's not a specific goal. We don't have a destination in mind. What we're really hoping for is to just end up there. And that's not how things work, right? We don't end up places by accident. We end up places because we set out to get there. I really like this quote that by Les Brown, who is one of my favorite motivational speakers. It says, goals help you channel your energy into action, right? So think about a funnel. Goals help you narrow the focus down to that one thing. So you have this whole map here, right? With that one little X, your goals help you narrow down on that one X so that you actually end up there at the place you want, as opposed to having that whole map to fool around with. All right. So myself personally, we spoke last week. I told you guys about how, I was a little bit of, aloof when I was younger, to put it lightly. I was not super productive. I did not care about personal development. I did not care about any of this stuff. And I always knew that reading was a thing, right? Everyone knows, you're supposed to read books. My family is huge readers. My grandmother worked in publishing for her entire career. My aunt, uncle, and cousins, they read all the time. My mom is a big reader. Everyone in my family read, and I was always just like, nah, I just didn't care about it. And I was, again, I knew it was a thing to do. I knew it was a thing that I probably should be doing, but it just never happened. I never picked up a book from the time I was in high school until a few years ago. And then what changed? Well, I decided to set a goal to read more. Instead of just thinking about like, okay, when I read, that would be nice. I made it a goal in my brain. And that little thing flipped a switch in me that changed me from never reading for an entire decade to now I have become a voracious reader who inhales books. So pop quiz here. Pretty simple though. Who do you think is going to find more success, right? We have person 1 who wants to lose weight and they wait for it to happen. Or we have person 2 who wants to lose weight and they set goals. And I'm not going to ask you to vote because I think this is a pretty obvious answer here. But actually it's a trick question, right? Because success is not a yes or no answer. It's not all or nothing. It exists on a continuum like this arrow, right? So there's probability of success all the way at the end. We have person 1 who wants to lose weight and wait for it to happen. There's almost no chance that person is going to find success. And again, you can take out weight loss and put in wants to be successful in business and wait for it to happen, wants to learn a new language and waits for it to happen, wants to do anything. Whatever the thing is, I just use weight loss as an analogy here. Person 2 who wants to lose weight and sets goals has more probability of success than 0, but they're still not very high on the probability continuum, because we need to be able to set proper goals And not only set proper goals, but set proper goals and then take action. You see, goal setting is an art. It is not just set goals, right? This is a big part. This is the main thing I want you guys to get out of this specific lesson, is that goal setting by itself is not enough. And this is why people get messed up a lot with this, because they set goals and they're like, whoa, I set goals. What the hell? I'm not achieving them. But if you don't know how to set goals, if you're not setting proper goals, you're not doing anything more than just wishing for it to happen. All right. You're just waiting. When you have it all, though, when you have proper goal setting and you have action steps to make those goals into a reality, that's when you have it. You have the real formula for success. So by the end of today's lesson, I hope that you understand the difference between maybe what you've done in the past and just setting random goals or arbitrary goals or whatever goals, or goals that aren't actually moving the needle towards success, and actually setting well thought out, well planned, well structured goals that push you along that progress continuum all the way to the green arrow there. This is another quote I love. I don't know who first said it. A goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So if you go back here, there's person 2 who sets goals. They want to lose weight and they set a goal, but they don't have proper goals and they don't have an action plan. They're basically just hoping for it to happen. You're like, my goal is to lose weight. Okay, how are you going to make that happen? Well, I don't know. If a genie from a magic lamp came and gave it to you, you'd accept it. Yes, but that's about as far as you're getting with that. So if you don't have proper goal setting with action, you're just wishing, right? And now go back to my story from before about me when I wanted to read more, right? Like I said, I had never read for 10 entire years. And then I set a goal of like, I want to start reading. But I didn't actually get there when I set that goal, because that's a really wishy-washy goal. There was no actual structure to it. There was no plan to it. Like, my goal was to read more. Okay, what's more? If I'm going from 0 to 1 page of a blog every 6 months was technically more. So that wasn't what got me to where I am now, where I'm reading, 4, 5, 6, 7 books a month. It was the steps that I'm going to come to as we go on here. But just understand that that is the first step, setting the goal, but there's a lot more that we need to understand to make it a real thing, a concrete reality that we can work towards. And the magic of proper goal setting is what's called the Goldilocks principle, right? Not too little, not too big. It has to be just right. Okay. So when I set the goal of, I want to read more, again, what is that? That's not, but if I set a goal of, I want to read 1,000 books, that's too much. If I set a goal of, I want to read a book in the next decade, that doesn't really do anything for me either. So we need to find that perfect balance of pushing ourselves and also allowing ourselves the freedom to like not be crushed by the goal. So are you helpless or are you flowing? So here I have 2 names, Martin Seligman, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the guy on the other side's name, Mikhail Kasheshniak or something like that. But these guys are 2 very famous psychologists who each of them has come up with an extremely important theories about human motivation that are very important for goal setting. So first we have Martin Seligman, and Martin Seligman is one of the, or probably the godfather of human motivation and all of these different theories that I talk about. But for today's topic, the thing I want to focus on is a principle he coined called learned hopelessness. So basically, Seligman, this was, I think, in the 60s or something like that, maybe the 60s or 70s, maybe 50s, but did an experiment where basically he took dogs and he shocked them, right, with a little electric shocks. Again, this was in the 60s, so they were allowed to do stuff like this back then. And basically he would shock the dog, and there was a switch somewhere where the dog could hit the switch and the shock would turn off. And then there was another group of dogs where they would shock the dog, but there was no switch. So the dogs could not control the shock. They could not turn it off. They just got shocked, and then that was it. So one group of dogs got shocked, but they learned that they could turn it off when they wanted. But the other dogs got shocked and they had no control over it. It was just completely random to them. They got shocked, and when it stopped, it stopped. He then took those groups of dogs and put them in a cage where the floor was electrified. It was shocking. And there was a little partition, small enough for the dogs to easily jump over. And if they jumped over, the other side was not electrified. So it was they could easily jump to safety. And what he found was the dogs who were shocked before and able to control it and turn it off would jump over to safety where they weren't being shocked. But the dogs who learned that they could not turn off the first shock, they didn't even try to jump away to safety. They had what was called learned hopelessness. They got into their head that there was no way for them to get out of that shock. So even though all they had to do was jump over the small little barrier to get away from the shock, they just ended up laying there and taking it. They had conditioned into their brain that there was nothing they could do about what was happening to them. So why is this important for goal setting? Because if we set goals that are too big, going back to what I just said about the goal setting Goldilocks principle of we want goals that are just right. When we set goals that are too big and set ourselves up for failure all the time, we are conditioning ourselves for learned hopelessness, right? Again, using weight loss as a very simple example, someone who's 50 pounds overweight, they start a diet, they give up. 6 months later, they start a diet, they give up. A year later, they start a diet, they give up. Eventually, they're just going to say, screw this. I'm not starting any more diets because why would I? Right? And that's the point. We need to understand that we want to push ourselves, but if you're setting yourself up for failure, it actually has a negative effect because you learn that it's like, well, there's no point in me doing this because I'm just going to keep failing. And then that makes you not even want to try anymore. You get pushed into this learned helplessness. So that might lead us to believe it's like, well, then I don't want to set big goals, right? Because I don't want to push myself into learned helplessness. I don't want to put myself down too much. So I'll just set small goals all the time so that I know that I can achieve them. But that brings us to the next guy, Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. And Mihail came up with what is now known as flow. So flow, the flow state is what he coined, is a state of being in which we are optimally challenged. And you may have heard of this if anyone plays sports or watches sports. You might hear like someone like a Kobe Bryant or a Jordan when they're being interviewed and they ask him after the game, they're like, well, you were doing so good, what happened? And they're just like, I don't know, like everything just kind of like I was just in the zone, right? People call it being in the zone. And being in flow is a state of like you're hyper aware, your time slows down, you are very tuned into what you're doing, everything else kind of fades out and you are super zoned in. And this happens in sports a lot, but it will also happen if ever you're very dug into a work thing that you're really pushed by, that where you're like you don't know, you start working and it's all of a sudden 3 hours just flew by and you're like, wait, what the hell? It felt like 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be sports, and it can be work, it can be a relationship thing, right? There's a conversational flow where you're just having a really good talk with someone, and again, time just flies by as if it was nothing. But the point of this is that flow happens when we are optimally challenged, right? So take sport as a good example, right? If I'm a really good tennis player, or I enjoy playing tennis a lot, and I play tennis all the time, and I go with my friend who is just as good as me, we might play on the court for 2 hours and we're knocking it back and forth, and we're both challenging each other, and it's a good game and I'm sweating, and again, that time flies. I get into that flow state where I'm like, I'm right at the peak of my abilities, and he's pushing me, I'm pushing him, I'm enjoying it, he's having fun. Like it's hard, it's challenging, but it's enjoyable. And that's peak flow state, right? But now say the next day, my cousin comes and says, hey, you play tennis a lot, right? And I go, yeah. And they go, I've never played tennis before. Can you show me how? And I would agree because it's my cousin and I want to help him. And, so we go to play tennis, but me playing with a complete, beginner who has no skill, I'm not playing to my highest capability. I'm not playing to where I'm being pushed. I will not reach flow state in that manner. So it's not that tennis gets me to a flow state. It is that I am pushed and challenged in a way that allows me to get right to that peak of what I'm capable of. So this is why it's important. Again, the Goldilocks principle again is that it can't be so high that we can't achieve the thing, right? So if I'm playing tennis against Serena Williams or Roger Federer, I'm again not going to reach flow state because they're just going to destroy me, right? So we have to find that perfect balance of I need to be challenged. It can't be so easy. I can't be so afraid of not reaching the goal that I don't set a challenge for myself, because then I don't push myself to that place where I can get into flow. But it cannot be so hard, again, where I am continually failing and I get into that learned helplessness that Martin Seligman discovered. All right. So again, this is why I call it the Goldilocks principle, because it needs to be just right. We need goals that push us because we want to get optimally challenged. But we also don't want goals that are way too hard and force us to think that there's no way that I can do this. So now we understand why goal setting is so important and what exactly we mean by proper goal setting. So these are the 4 main principles of goal setting that I want you to understand and to move forward with after today. Some of them you may be familiar with. SMART goals are pretty ubiquitous to the entire world. Pretty much everyone knows what these are, but we're going to go over it as well. Some of these are my thing. Some of these are other people, but we're going to go and break down each and every one of these. So the first, SMART goals, right? This is the most well-known goal setting tactic, and for good reason. SMART goals are 100% necessary. And SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And each one of these letters is extremely important. So specific is, I don't put them in any order, but it is extremely important because going back to the map analogy, we do not find a location that we do not set out for, right? So specific is naming the goal specifically. As in before, when I was talking about myself with reading, I want to read is not that specific. I want to read a book a month is much more specific. I want to be healthy is okay, but what does healthy mean? Healthy will mean different things to different people. I want to make sure I eat more fruits and vegetables is a specific thing, right? The more specific and the more zeroed in that we can get, the better chance there is of us being able to reach that goal, which leads right into the next one, which is measurable. When it's specific, I should be able to measure it, right? So again, read more is not very specific. Read a book a month is very measurable. I read the book or I did it. Being healthy is maybe specific, depending if you have a specific definition of what health means to you, then sure. But is it measurable? How do you know that you're being more healthy? Whereas drinking 8 glasses of water every day is a very measurable thing. We want to be able to measure it because, again, going back to Martin Seligman's learned helplessness, if we can measure it, we can see, are we doing the thing or are we not? And that gives us the forward momentum to understand, like, okay, like, is this too big or too small, right? So if let's just use drinking water as an example, because it's a super easy one to measure. If my goal is drink 10 glasses of water, and then I see that I'm only drinking 1 glass of water, that might be a goal that's too big for me, because now I'm like, oh, there's a big gap between 1 and 10. So I might need to reassess that goal. And we'll go over that more in a second. But I only knew that because I measured it, because I knew exactly the numbers, 10 and 1. There's a big difference there. The next thing is attainable. Again, coming right off of this. Is it possible for me to get this goal? This is directly coming from the learned helplessness theory of, if it's not attainable, I'm setting myself up for failure because of what I just spoke about before, right? Because of the fact that if I set goals that are too big, that are unreachable for me, I'm going to get into that zone of learned helplessness where it's like, well, why even try? Right? So if my goal is to create a business, that might be a good goal. If my goal is to create the next Tesla, that might not be attainable for me. And then if that is my goal and my barometer for success is creating the next Tesla, since it's not attainable, I will now start to fall into that failure loop of like, oh, I'm trying, I'm failing, I'm trying, I'm failing. Eventually, I'm going to quit. I mean, starting the new Tesla is also not really specific or measurable, but that's, so that's just a bad goal in general. All right. And the next one is relevant. Relevant to what? To your specific goals. So when we, in a few slides, we're going to get into different types of goals. So your big goals, your short goals, your long-term goals, your short-term goals, or whatever. So we have multiple goals going on at one time. Everyone does, right? So everyone, you might have a goal to be overall more healthy. So then that might loop in going to the gym, exercising more, drinking more water, right? So if my big goal is to be more healthy, and then one of my smaller goals is to journal more, is that relevant to my goal of being more healthy? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe journaling helps me get things out or something like that. But my point is just that if we only have so much energy, we want to focus on the things that need the most focus. So again, we could set infinite goals if we want to, but we have to realize that when we do that, every goal I set is taking away energy from another goal. So I want to think, is my smaller goals, are all of my goals relevant to the one big thing? So whether if it's, learning a new language or meditating more, whatever your big goal is, are your smaller goals relevant to that? Or conversely, is your big goal, whatever that is, relevant to the life that you want to lead, right? So anyone who's watching this did their, their 5 years from now activity. Like, what do I want my life to look like 5 years from now? So when I'm setting a goal, if my goal is to be happier and healthier, right? 5 years from now, I want to be meditating and happy, and I want to live in a cabin in the woods where I don't have to worry about anything and this and that. But then my goal for this year is to become a millionaire. Is that really relevant to that? Do I need that? Do I need that to get to my ultimate goal? Right. So I'm just thinking about, do all of these things match up? Is there relevance in the things that I'm thinking about, again, that I'm spending my finite mental energy on for the greater goal of whatever it is? All right. And then the last thing is time bound, timely, sometimes they say. Goals need to have time frames, because if they don't, you'll never achieve them. Right? There's a law, a rule. I don't remember what exactly it is, but it's basically like your task will expand to fill the amount of time you give it. Right? So if I learned this in college, right? If I had a final paper, they told us in the very beginning of the semester. I remember my senior year for business management for something. Final paper due the week before graduation. It's 50 pages. I told everyone, start now. It's 50 pages. You need to get it done. It's 50% of your grade. Start now. You had the whole semester to do it. When did I start that paper? 3 days before it was due. Because I was using the time that I had available to me. In the same way, I would, if I only had 3 days, I would have done it in 3 days. If I had like that paper that I could get done in 3 days, I made it last 50 days. I mean, 50 days, the entire semester, because I had the time, right? So it wasn't that I needed a full semester to do it. Clearly I could do it in only 30 days, only 3 days, because I did it in 3 days. But it's like, I made it last the entire semester somehow, because they gave me the entire semester. If they would have given me a week, I would have done it in a week, right? Same thing with work things. If your boss tells you have 2 weeks to do this project, it will get done in 2 weeks. Whereas if they say you have the afternoon to do this project, suddenly we find a way to get it done in a week. So, I mean, in an afternoon. So when we set time frames, we are forcing ourselves to actually do the action in that set amount of time. It also makes it, again, going back to specific and measurable, more specific and measurable, right? Saying I want to lose weight is not really specific. It's certainly not measurable. I mean, it is measurable, but it's not as specific. But saying I want to lose 10 pounds is now specific and measurable. Saying I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 months is now specific, measurable, and time bound. Because again, if I say I want to lose 10 pounds, that's fine. That's specific and measurable. But what happens in 6 months comes, okay, well, I didn't say how long it would take. Maybe I'm doing it in a year. Okay, now a year comes. I still haven't done it. So you kind of can just keep pushing things around. Setting time limits forces you to work in that time zone. And that's the way humans work. Our brains will just be like, okay, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Whereas if you set a specific time frame for it, give yourself a hard date, like this has to be done by this date, you'll get it done. So the next thing is your one thing or your big rock. And this quote comes directly from the book, The One Thing, which I highly, highly recommend for anyone. And the question is, what is the one thing that you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This is the big question. And this is what I call your big rock on your goal sheet. So whatever your big goal is, right? So if your goal is, again, 5 years from now to be happier and healthier and whatever, like these are again, 5 years is like arbitrary, just kind of like wishy goals. But what's the one thing, the one big rock that you can do right now, this week, that will move you closer to the goal, right? If we think about that continuum, I want to move closer. If I'm here now and this is where I want to be, what's the one thing that's actually going to move me closer to the end goal? And when we think about it that way, we start to be able to narrow in and push away a lot of the bullshit, right? So if I think about if I'm talking about starting a business, okay, I want to create this course. I know that I could answer emails, I could read more blogs, I could read more books, I could record videos, I could, there's a million things. But the one thing that I know I really need to do is to write out the outline of what the course is going to be, right? So it's like by focusing on that, again, energy is finite. I know that that's the one that's my one thing for the day or for the week. So the one thing is what moves us along the path to our bigger goal. And there can be a weekly one thing or a daily one thing. I suggest both. So every day, if I wake up and I say, okay, what's the one thing that I need to focus on today that's going to get me towards my goal? And then each day, one thing adds up to now I have a weekly one thing, and I just build myself up and forward like that. And it's also very helpful mentally because we know that when we do that thing, we've moved ourselves forward. So a lot of times, again, coming back to this learned helplessness and like we don't like to fail, when we're doing a lot of stuff, but we don't see the direct correlation of it moving it closer to our goal, it kind of flusters us, right? So it's like I'm answering emails, I'm responding to people on social media, I'm reading, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but it's like, is that really moving me towards my goal? I don't know. And then I get flustered, I get frustrated, and I end up giving up. Whereas if I know I have one thing to do today, and if I do that one thing, I will have moved closer to my goals. Everything else after that becomes secondary and tertiary, and it's just a bonus because I have my one main focus that I need to do. All right. And there's a really cool analogy. There's a video on YouTube you can see about this. This is where I get the term big rock from, right? So you have your big rocks, you have pebbles, and you have sand. Your big rocks, again, is your one important thing. And your pebbles are your things that are like pretty important, and your sand is just like your daily tasks, your chores, the stuff that you have to do, but like it could get done anytime. So your big rocks are the thing that these are what moves the needle. This is what moves you on that continuum. This is what moves you closer to your big goal. Your big rocks are the most important thing. But what people do is instead they do busy work, and they fill up. If you imagine a jar, the busy work is again the answering emails, it's the going grocery shopping, it's the things that we need to do, but it's like it's not super pressed on when we do it. But what happens is when we fill our jar with the sand, right? We fill our jar, we use our finite energy, we use our time doing the busy work, answering emails, doing the laundry, doing the thing. Then all of a sudden, you look at the jar on the right, there's no room for the big rocks anymore. Whereas if you do it opposite, if you imagine a jar and you fill the big rocks first, you do your one thing, your big rock. When you pour the sand in, it fills the rest of the jar around the big rocks, right? So you can fit both in if you put it in the right order. If you put the sand first, it fills the jar, and then the rocks can't go anymore. But if you put the big rocks first, the sand and the pebbles can then go around it. So you form your life, you form your schedule, you form everything around the one thing or the big rocks that are the real needle movers. And that's a big switch because again, most people are doing busy work. Most people are they're doing something like, oh, well, I did so much today. But it's like, but did you move the needle? Did you do your big rock? Did you do your one thing that's actually getting you closer to the ultimate goal? And the ultimate goal brings me to the next principle, which is the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. BHAGs are your big goals. These are stretch goals, far out goals, right? So these are goals that are 6 months, a year in the future, maybe 2 or 3 or 5 years. Like these are just the goals of that are just like pie in the sky. Again, like I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be healthy, happy, whatever, healthy, happy, rich, sexy, all the things that I want to be, right? They need to push you and even scare you a bit. They need to be to where like you're like, wow, I really don't even know if this is possible, but I'm going to try anyway. Because again, going back to the flow theory, having that goal that really pushes us, something to work towards, is like me playing against the tennis pro, right? Where it's like they're beating me right now, but I know that maybe if I practice for 5 years, that I'll be able to play against them. But I need that idea in my head of like there's something that I'm working towards. And that's how I decide what my big rock, what my one thing is. Because the big goal that's all the way out in the future, I don't expect that to come tomorrow because it can't. It's so big that it can't be there tomorrow. But what I do is I know that if I take small incremental steps forward each day, each week, each month, that I will chop away and get closer and closer and closer to that thing. So when I'm thinking about my one thing for the week or my one thing for the day, I have my BHAG in the back of my mind of like, okay, what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is the BHAG. That's again, that just that I have a picture of a mansion that I'm living in. Like we did it in the worksheet that I gave you. You actually have it drawn out. You have a vision of what you want to be, the house, what the house looks like, the dog that you have, the car that you have it all pictured. And that's a big, big, big goal. So now we break that down into the smaller, big rocks and think, how do I move closer to that goal each day? And that's where we get to the last thing that I want to talk about, which is the low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit are akin to the one thing or the big rocks, but those would be your pebble goals, right? So again, if the big rock is your one thing, the sand is your busy work, the low-hanging fruit are the goals in between there. These are goals that are still moving you towards the ultimate goal, the ultimate big hairy goal, but they're not like the biggest thing. So if my goal is to be healthier, my low-hanging fruit goals might be to drink more water, 8 glasses of water a day. It might be to add a serving of vegetables each day. It might be to eat more protein. It might be to go to the gym 5 times this week. The point is that these goals are not the big goal, right? Like eating serving more vegetables today does not make me the healthiest, happiest person in the world. Doing one client interaction each day does not make me a billionaire like Elon Musk. But the small wins build up that forward momentum, right? Like I said before, we don't want to get into a place where we are consistently failing, because then that is where we start to quit. What we want is to get into a place where we're consistently succeeding. And this goes back to the stories and the self-talk that I spoke about last week, because every time I win, every time I give myself a small win, I am writing a story in my head that I am succeeding. Every time I lose, that's what learned helplessness is. It's just a story that you're always going to fail. And then your brain doesn't even want to try because it has that story written in it, right? All this stuff builds on each other. With success, it goes in the opposite direction. If I build small wins and small successes, I set a goal of to drink 8 glasses of water today, and I do it. Ooh, that's a win. I set a goal tomorrow. I do it. That's a win. I do it. That's a win. I take these little wins, not because they are the most life-changing things, not because they are making me a billionaire, but because they build up the forward momentum to get me in that upward spiral that gets me eventually to the big thing. And also, small wins over time actually do add up to big change and big results. By focusing on the low-hanging fruit, it doesn't feel like we're doing anything crazy, right? It doesn't like, so again, this is the thing a lot of people do is like, they're like, January 1st comes. All right, I'm going to start a gym routine, going 5 days a week, even though I've never gone to the gym before. I'm going to start dieting. I'm going to cut out all carbs. I'm going to start drinking a ton of water. It's like, those are such big changes that it becomes too much. And again, now we've set ourselves up for failure. Whereas if you picked one small thing and built on that over time, you would actually be much more likely to succeed because you're programming your brain to win and to look for these small wins all the time. This is, if you don't know who this is Tony Robbins, again, master of motivation and all things human psychology. And he has a great quote that says, "We overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year." And this is the big problem. People want change to happen, so they set goals that are only thinking about that small time. Like the example I just gave of the person who wants to start January 1st and rewrite the entire fitness wheel of like, I go to the gym all the time now and I'm a healthy guy and I do this and I do this. And it's like, whoa, that's too much change in a small time. Whereas if we expand that and we take the low-hanging fruit goals over days and weeks, focusing on the one thing and the big rock that's pushing us towards the big goal, but understanding that the big goal is far out in time, right? It's a year out, it's 2 years out. Understand that. That's when we're really able to find the most success. It's having big goals that stretch us, but understanding the reality of the fact that that's going to take a lot of time. So now we get to action, because now that we kind of understand the importance of goals, I hope you understand the different types of goal setting techniques, and don't think that you have to use all of these all the time. I'm just giving you tools for your tool belt. All right. These are all just tools. These 4 things here are different ways, different goal setting techniques. Okay. But now we're going to take action. All right. So some tactics. One thing right off the bat, if you see the quote at the bottom, review your goals twice every day in order to be focused on achieving them. Right? Write your goals down. Write them on paper. Right? Just like in the last lesson, why do I use sticky notes? Why do I use these reminders? Because they make it real. When you just say, I want to lose weight. Okay, you say it, it's out there, it's in the universe. But if I have a weight loss goal written on my bathroom mirror that I look at every time I go into the bathroom, every time I wash my hands, if I have it on the back of my phone, like the phone background or something that I'm consistently seeing, that is, again, wiring my subconscious mind to want that thing, to look for that thing, to work towards that thing. So we use our stickies, we use our journals, we use our affirmations to rewire and reprogram our brain. And this is not just like, oh, like I'll speak it out into the universe and it'll happen. That's not it. It's literally programming your brain to be more aware of this stuff. All right. Next thing, these are very important to me. I call these check box goals, right? And if you filled out the goal sheet that I send every week, you know what I'm talking about. And this goes back to SMART goals, specific and measurable. I want to know, with a simple yes or no, did you achieve the goal this week? So when you set a goal, can you answer it that simply? This is why I don't like goals like, I want to be more healthy. How do you answer that in a yes or no? What is more healthy? That it's an arbitrary goal that doesn't have any real definition. If you ask 10 people what health means, it's going to be different things to different people. I want to be more fit. I want to make more money. What's more money? $1? I want to increase my income by $10,000 by the end of the quarter. When the end of the quarter comes, did I achieve this goal? Yes or no? It's a simple question. You don't need to argue about it. You don't need to justify it. It's yes or it's no. So these are the things I'm asking for. When you set a goal, can you, at the end of whatever the time frame, because it has to be a timely goal, it has to be time oriented. If it's a weekly goal, a monthly goal, a yearly goal, whatever it is, when that time comes, can you, with no further discussion, with no ifs, ands, buts, can you say with 100% certainty, yes, I did this thing, or no, I did not? That is a very important aspect of goal setting. The next thing, when we are talking about goal setting, I want you to use your crystal ball. and look into the future. Think about the goal that you just set, and now imagine what could happen to stop you from achieving this goal, right? So this is the thing. People say like, I want to meal prep, right? When I was a nutrition coach, people tell me all this time, like, I want to meal prep. Okay, that's a great goal. Now let's look into the future. What would stop you from not being able to meal prep? Well, I don't have any food in the house, so I need to go grocery shopping. Okay, do you have time to go grocery shopping this week? Not until Friday. Today's Monday. Well, then that's not a very good goal for you to set, because you just said you need to meal prep, but it's impossible for you to get the groceries until Friday. So if you would have stopped right there, it says like, I want to set a goal for meal prep. My goal is to meal prep, but you didn't forecast out into the future and think about what could actually pop up, you would have set yourself up for failure, right? You would have set a goal to meal prep and you wouldn't have met it because you didn't think about it, right? And again, now we get back into that failure loop, death spiral. So anytime I set a goal, the next thing I want to do is think about what are the things that would stop me from this goal. Can I then do something about that? Because some things are unavoidable. Some things aren't. And now I can remove those roadblocks. That's all that this is. It's setting a goal, forecasting what could stop me from achieving that goal, and then removing that roadblock preemptively. We are getting to a place of being proactive rather than reactive, because usually what happens is someone says, I want to go to the gym after work. That's their goal. Then what happens? Work call runs late. They don't go to the gym. They wait until the work call runs late. Now they're reacting to that. Whereas if I say, I want to go to the gym, okay, if I go after work, what could happen? My work call could run late. Well, since that is a very likely possibility, what can we do about that? I could work out in the morning instead. I could set a hard stop on my work calls and make sure that I don't take any, that I'm off my last call by 5 so I can be at the gym by 6. Okay, are these things possible for me? And now we break it down from there, but we didn't stop at just setting the goal. We had to be proactive and think about what's happening in the future and what could be the thing that would stop me from that. And that brings me to this scale, not a weight scale, not that one. This is the most important question you can ask yourself when goal setting. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can accomplish this goal? That's the question. And that's why I put this on every goal setting sheet that I have that you guys have filled out already, that anyone who works with me has. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can accomplish this goal? And if the answer is anything less than a 9 or a 10, that is not a good goal. Why? Because as I said, learned helplessness. We want goals that set us up for success. I want a goal that pushes me forward, that programs my brain to think, to know that I am a winner. I am someone who sets goals and achieves them. I am someone who every time I set a goal, I crush that goal. That is the story that I want running in my head. When my brain goes to check the tape and think, am I someone who accomplishes my goal? I want it to be yes, like this, yes. And the only way I do that is by making sure I achieve every goal I set. So when I set a goal, if you say, I'm a 6 or a 7, that goal is too hard. You need a goal that you can achieve with 9 or 10 certainty. So what do when the goal is too big? We change it, we shrink it, or we inchworm it. So change it. Change it is rewrite the goal. Also, going back to, I didn't mention this before, going back to the one thing, the reason it's called the one thing is because that's the one main focus, right? So say that my one thing, my big goal is to lose 100 pounds. And that's a 2-year goal, because I know that that's going to be a big thing, right? That's a big to do. So my one thing for the week might be to eat vegetables with every meal. That's a specific, measurable, attainable, time bound. It's by the week. But now if I ask you, okay, that you set that as someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to eat vegetables with every meal this week. And I say, with what level of certainty can you do that? And you say, well, I actually don't eat vegetables with any meals right now. I mean, it's possible, but I'm probably a 6 or a 7 out of 10 that's going to happen. I'm going to say that's not a good goal. So you can change it. You can work on something else. You can say, well, maybe I'll just drink more water. I'll drink 8 glasses of water every day. Okay, how confident are you that you can do that goal? I'm a 10 out of 10 that I can drink 8 glasses of water every day this week. Boom. That's the goal that we want to work on, because you're always going to be working on more goals. So don't worry about trading one out. Maybe now that once you start, maybe you drink more water, then you start a goal maybe next time of shrinking it. So instead of saying, I want to eat vegetables at every meal for the entire week, coming from not eating a single vegetable, someone who's just eating pizza and McDonald's all the time, let's shrink it. Maybe I will eat vegetables at one meal per day, every day this week. Okay, how confident are you that you can do that goal? That I'm a 9 or a 10 out of confidence. Okay, that's good. Now let's work on that, because that's acceptable. Because again, we don't want to set ourselves up for failure with these goals that are too big. So a lot of times people think they're doing something smart by being like, well, I really want to push myself. I want to, I don't want a goal that's that easy. I don't want a 9 or a 10 goal. But the big goals that push you, again, are your far out goals. Those are the BHAGs, the down the road. We want those goals. We want to be pushed to get something really hard. But for our small daily and weekly goals, we want success. We want to be building that success story in our head. Our self-talk, our subconscious thoughts need to be win, 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 win. And that's how you build this stuff. All right. And then the last technique is just inchworm it. Inchworm it is like, how do I make it a little bit more achievable, right? So if I think about, again, if I'm like eating vegetables is the thing. I'm someone who never eats vegetables, right? I eat candy, I eat McDonald's, I eat pizza. And someone's like, I heard I'm supposed to eat more vegetables. So like, I want to eat vegetables all the time now. And I'm like, okay, like with what level of confidence are you able to do that? All right, probably a 5 out of 10 confidence. Okay, what would it look like for you to be at a 6 confidence? Well, maybe I could eat vegetables at lunch and dinner because I know my girlfriend will cook vegetables at night and it's easy to grab a salad with lunch, but I don't know what a vegetable would be that I would eat in breakfast. Okay, that's good. From there, we were at a 6. What about getting it to a 7? Well, maybe lunch and dinner is a little bit too much. What if I only did vegetables at dinner when my girlfriend is going to cook for me, and maybe at lunch, but like that's not necessary. Okay. And we just slowly crawl our way from a lower confidence level to a higher confidence level. And again, that could be a smaller low hanging fruit goal that we know is achievable, as just moving from one to the next. And we work on that day by day, week by week. So action steps for this week. Find your one thing for the week. Your one thing, your big rock, the needle mover. And remember, this has to adhere to the rules of being a SMART goal. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant to your overall bigger goal, and time bound automatically because it is the week. Then, based on your one thing for the week, that automatically will help you figure out your one thing for the day. So if my one thing for the week is this goal, what's the thing I need to do each day that's going to move me towards that greater goal for the week, right? And the last thing, action steps, that we always want to track it. As I said, I want to write these things down. I want to be able to trace this. We're going to use the habit checklist. So this is a very simple, again, end of the week. Did I do it? Yes or no. Each day, did I do it? Yes or no. So that's the point of the checklist. It's not a check. There's no check and tell me what went wrong. It's yes or it's no. I did or I didn't. That's the only thing that really matters in this situation. All right. So the one big thing for the week, that one big thing is moving us towards our bigger, grander life goal. Our one thing for the day is moving us towards our one thing for the week. And each one of those by day and by the entire week should be a simple yes or no checkbox answer. Did I do this or did I not? And those are what I want you to work on for this week. And with that, any questions? I'm going to stop screen sharing now. We're coming up on just like an hour. Sorry, I just talked for a long time. Does that all make sense? Can I get thumbs up? Or if anyone has any questions or anything in general, I'm happy to, we have 5 more minutes if anyone wants to ask anything.
And
Does that all make Does that make more sense now that I explained it? Does that paper, oh, I can actually pull that up now. Right? So this, right? So the big rock, right? That's the one thing for the week. So if my one thing might be, again, these are goals that I can track. So my one thing is not going to be lose weight, because that's not something I'm in control of. My one thing is going to be go to the gym 5 times. Okay. So that's a thing that I can check very easily. Did I do it or did I not? And then what are my action steps for the day? It might be make sure my gym bag is packed each night. It might be make sure that this or that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that's how I use it. And each day, check. And then we see at the end of the week, did I do a full, how many days did I get into my bigger goal? Does that make sense? What do you mean they're more personal goals? What you can unmute yourself. What's like explain what's your question?
So I mean, my big goal is interpersonal, to like not get like drama. I got reading all these wonderful books. I don't want to involve myself in drama.
So
Hani knows what I'm talking about, but I want I want stuff to just to be able to go. Whew.
Yeah. So
like that's part of my future, because that will improve me.
All right. I get what you're saying, but so this is exactly it. So, but that's not a good, so that's a future far off goal, right? But what is a goal that helps you do that? That might be, I don't know, taking a course on whatever management, on like stress management. It might be reading a book. It might be like, that goal is like, that's a good goal to have, but that's not an actual goal that is tangible. Right. So it's not like to say like, that's my goal. It's like, again, how do you know if you did that? How do you know if you're better at conflict resolution? How do you know if you're like, the goal can be take a course on conflict resolution with the understanding that at the end of that, I will be better equipped to resolve conflict. The goal could be to get into less stressful situations. But how do I do that? By when I get into a stressful situation, I can close my eyes and count to 10 or something like that. Like, it has to be, again, something that you can say. This is like very akin to, I want to be healthier. I want to be fitter. I want to do, it's like, what is the thing that tells you if you did the thing? It's a good goal to have. I'm not saying that can't be your goal, but that's not an actionable goal in the short term specifically, So that's what I mean. So now you break it down. That's why you just keep peeling back the layers of the onion. If that's my goal, what is the big rock that leads me to that goal? That's and now you figure it out. I don't know. Again, there's books, there's courses, there's therapy, there's, I want to go talk with I want to have a talk with my boss who I always argue with and like lay things out to them. I don't know what the thing is. I'm just saying you have to put it into a tangible bucket of like, I know if this happened or not. Does that make sense? It's not the most fun answer, but but that's the thing. And that's why people don't get this stuff, because they want it. They're like, oh, just give me a simple answer. Just tell me the thing to do. And as I always say, if it were that easy, I would tell you. If I knew, if there was an answer for this stuff, how to be, how to resolve interpersonal conflict, it's very, we would all be better humans if there was a simple answer for that. But it's, what are the small things? But that's why, again, that's such a big goal that if you set your sights on that this is where we get into that learned helplessness thing of like, oh, like, I need to be a better conflict resolutioner and I'm not. So like, what am I even doing? But it's like, if my goal is to work on a conflict resolution workbook every day, that's a very small, achievable, tangible goal that is moving me towards the direction of understanding this a little better.
So my original mindset shift tracker was more reasonable than what I built it up to be.
Okay.
I made it like really complicated.
Yeah, it's not that
too simple.
Yeah, it's again, this is simple stuff. And that's all of this stuff. It's simple stuff, but done consistently and taken seriously. There is no magic to this stuff, right? I'm just regurgitating information that I've learned from other people. I'm just putting it all together into what I would hope is a more succinct, understandable form. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments, concerns, tweets, smoke signals? No, nothing. All right, awesome. So yeah, so just remember, use the sheets, and then again, those action steps that I put on the last slide, I'm going to put in the Facebook group, but it really is the big rock goal for the week, daily big rock goals, and then using the sheet to track it, to make it real, to write it out, use the sticky notes, all the stuff that we talked about in the last course, last lesson, whatever, still applies. So the stories, the self-talk, that stuff is still going. Every week just layers on the next. These are not separate things. They all go together. All right. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I had a great time.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you all. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.